Welcome to the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad. I'm your host, Chris Finn, and today I am very excited to have one of the fastest women in the world with me. You probably have seen her on social if you care at all about hitting the ball far. She just recently had a phenomenal showing out at the Duel in the Desert. It's Cassandra Meyer. How are you, Cass? I'm excited to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
So whenever I have guests on, I always do a little bit of research, and it's not often that I have a Junior Ryder Cup champ on the show that got to play with Tony Finau. So I think for everyone, I would love to just hear kind of your story. People don't typically have that exciting of a story that young, so that's definitely share that with us. And kind of how did you get from there? How'd you get into golf, and then eventually to the World Long Drive side of things that you're in now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always joke that playing with Tony Finau on the Junior Ryder Cup's like my claim to fame. It was like 20 years ago, but we're still riding it. So I played a lot of junior golf. I had a pretty good career there. Was highly recruited. Totally intended to play on the LPGA. Like that was my dream. I turned pro when I was 18. Decided to skip college, which I don't suggest doing. Wasn't my best decision ever. But I wanted to play golf. Like that was all I wanted to do. I was obsessed with it. I felt like my game was in a good place at the time. Had someone that wanted to help me out financially because that was always kind of an issue. I grew up in a very like normal middle class family. Like my mom didn't work. We weren't rolling in the dough, which if anybody that plays golf at a high level knows that it's a very expensive sport. And I learned that very quickly, just how expensive mini tours were. I had a sponsor kind of pull out early on, just had some personal stuff going on. And I was trying to work full time and play. I got full status on what's now like Symetra Tour or
Epson.
What's called now Epson Tour.
We're Epson now.
Tour.
I struggle to keep up with it too. You're not alone.
Aging myself. And it was difficult, trying to work and try to compete and just the pressure that builds. I don't think that a lot of people understand what goes on behind the scenes mentally when you're funding your own way. And social media wasn't a thing at the time, so it was very hard to find sponsors or raise money. Social media was around, but it wasn't like there weren't golf influencers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if I wanted to go play now, I could probably raise money to go to Q school. But when you're a early 20-year-old girl that's working on the beverage cart or cleaning carts or working at a golf academy, trying to fund your season playing professional golf and like having that mentality of if I don't make the cut, I got to go back to work for a couple of weeks before I can afford to travel to the next event. I just lost it mentally. I couldn't handle it. Ended up getting the yips off the tee. Like couldn't hit the face of the earth if I tried. It was really a tough time to kind of just keep grinding it out. I'd have little glimpses of hope here and there. And eventually it got to the point where I was like, well, I need to make a decision, and I ended up just kind of fizzling out of the competitive golf, and I was still working at a golf course, and ended up trying long drive just for fun. Like I hadn't been competing for a couple of years before that, and I was like, I just missed the competition, missed having something to work towards. Social media was kind of starting to like be a thing that I could potentially do, so I was sort of feeling my way through that. And I entered the tournament, my second ever long drive event. I finished second in. So that was like, it just ended up being the perfect conditions for me. It was blowing straight into the wind. I was like, I could flight the ball. It wasn't near as fast as these other girls. Like I honestly didn't think I even had a chance in long drive. Like I'm 5'5". I'm not that big of a girl. It didn't really, like I was always one of the longer hitters out on tour, but these girls are
it's next level.
180 ball speed, like wasn't even like that was completely unheard of, And
we got to go back. That was against Phyllis, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
So like the legend, your first ever final. What was that like?
Yeah,
I mean, just for perspective, for those of you who maybe don't know women's long drive, that's like a rookie coming up against like Michael Jordan in Game 7 head to head. Like like that's big time. Like, what was that like?
Yeah, honestly, that was just a complete blur. Like, first of all, me making it through our qualifying stages was like, what am I doing here? Like no one knows who I am. Like I'm just, yeah. It was a very strange position to be in. I think my semifinal, it was back then we did like one person hit their whole set and then the next person went.
Mm-hmm.
So I beat her on my first ball. Like it was a one and done to get into the final, and I was like, what the heck is happening, And then, and then I'm walking out into the final on like a televised event against Phyllis. Yeah, I was, I think I blacked out. I don't know. I must have blacked out
awesome.
because I missed the grid 8 times. I went OP in the final.
Oh, no.
all those demons came back in that moment. But, yeah, I mean, it was fun. The conditions were really tough. It was blowing like crazy. Which Atlantic City is kind of known for that. Like they always get crazy winds there. But it was so much fun. Like it's just the environment coming from like a traditional golf background.
Mm-hmm.
Long drive is so addicting because it's like such high adrenaline and it's everything that you don't get from golf. Like you want to get amped up, you want to get excited, you want your heart to beat fast. Like it's all about speed and noise and excitement. And I think that like, because you're always so used to like suppressing all of those feelings in golf, trying to stay calm, trying not to get too high, too low. You can just kind of let it all out in long drive and it almost benefits you. So I think that like that, I was just completely hooked after that for sure.
That's so cool. Yeah, I mean, basically it's like everything that you can't do in golf, you get to like do in long drive.
Yeah, and the mentality is so much better too, because like, especially for someone that struggles a little bit with like negative thoughts or like, me struggling off the tee, it was kind of my way of like taking control back of something that I felt like ruined my career. We have 6 balls now in 2.5 minutes. And it's just a different mentality. Like golf's all about trying not to hit a bad shot, right? Which obviously you don't want to think that way, but it is a lot about misses. Like where do you want to miss? Where do you want to leave your next shot? Like what's the better side to miss on? Like it's kind of controlling the bad shots and kind of keeping that under control. And long drive is all about the absolute best shot that you can hit. And if you hit a duck hook out the left side, no one gives a shit, Like,
exactly.
Completely
Next.
acceptable.
Yeah.
So it is, and it sounds like, 6 balls, like that's so easy, anyone can do that. But it is still like you're swinging as hard as you can. You have to get that speed, get the solid contact, get the shot shape, the launch, the spin, all of that together at the right time for the conditions that you're facing. So, there's a lot of times in golf, like you'll hit a little heel cut down the fairway and be perfectly happy with it, right?
Yeah.
That's a one-handed finish in long drive. Like it ain't it ain't getting the job done. So there are some difficult things about it, but I think the mentality suits me and I'm a lot more comfortable. Like I haven't, knock on wood, had no B set in like a year and a half, like I hit the ball straighter going all out than I do trying to keep the ball in the fairway on the golf course. Like it's just.
Well, I think a lot of people, when they start actually going all out, they will have that similar result. And speaking of all out, you hit a drive like 350 yards at the Duel in the Desert, didn't you?
I
have 348 written down.
348, yeah, something like that. Yeah,
that's insane.
West, like it does go a little bit further in Mesquite. Not quite as far as Denver, but it is one of our better locations.
That's still 348 yards. That is farther than most people listening to this would ever imagine hitting a golf ball. Like, what is like? How have you gotten to that point where like you're clearly not even impressed by 348, and I love that. You're like, I don't even remember what it was like, but like, how do you go from that? Because there's a lot of people listening, and it's just golfers in general, where speed is sexy, right? They want more speed, they want to hit it farther, and so like, how have you made that move to now? Where I always look at, I think of like cars, right? We look at F1 as like, how are we going to improve just the general car for everybody else? I think of World Long Drive and what you guys do as like the F1 of golf, right? And for the average golfer who wants to hit it farther, they can learn a ton.
Sorry, I was getting a call.
Oh, you're good. So for all the golfers who want to learn how to get faster, they can obviously learn a ton from you and from, the quote unquote F1 golfers who are going really fast. So how did you make that transition? Like, what do you do? Do you do any stuff differently now than you used to when you were playing competitively? How do you move the needle to where you've gotten it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, when I was playing, speed training was never a thing. Like, I already naturally hit it pretty far. But we're talking about, I mean, back then I was maybe around 104, 105 club head speed, which at that time
that's fast.
Was really
that's
good.
Fast for women, yeah, 100%,
right?
Yeah.
Now they're starting to swing it a little bit faster. It's becoming, more of a common thing to like work on speed. At the time, we just don't need it. Like the courses aren't set up to like need any more speed. Honestly, if anything, it was a hindrance because I would have to lay back just to hit like a little bit wider part of the fairway. Everything would get more narrow and more difficult like the longer you hit it. So I was kind of used to kind of throttling back in my golf game all the time.
Yep.
When I started doing speed training, I mean, I didn't really know what I was doing. It was kind of a lot of trial and error. Until last year when I started going to see Bobby Peterson at One Stop Power Shop. Or I guess maybe it was 2 years ago now. I went up there for the first time and just sort of learning about like equipment and loading and unloading the shaft properly. A lot of it's timing, getting my body to work in the right way, the sequencing, stuff that I'm still working on. I'm definitely not one of the fastest girls out there. There's a couple of girls that are, I mean, their ball speed's probably, they peak maybe 10 miles an hour faster than me. So there's still quite a big gap between that sort of middle of the pack girls, which I'm on the top end of probably the middle of the pack. And then there's Phyllis, Monica, Mai that are just that next level of speed. So I focus a lot on, like, obviously I'm trying to get faster and just doing speed sessions, completely letting go of result has been the best thing for me. Like we'll do TrackMan speed sessions where you just turn off everything but ball speed and club head speed. Because for me, just coming from the golf background, taking off the brakes is so hard to do. Like my body just won't let me. I can't finish off balance for anything. Like my body just won't let me,
Yeah.
So that's just kind of repetition and
what does that speed session look like, Cass? Like for everyone listening, I mean, they have no idea what that looks like. Like what is that when you turn off everything? All you got is ball speed, club speed. Like talk the listener through just like what does that look like in terms of what you're doing, your mentality during that time.
I mean, for me, it's just kind of turning off my brain to all of my like mechanical thoughts. Right? I might have like one thing that I'm trying to do, whether it's getting my weight left sooner or just getting more hip turn or like more aggressive hip turn through impact, whatever it is that maybe we're working on at the time. I'll have like one thought and the rest of it you just kind of turn off. And it's just loud music and a bunch of people yelling at you, trying to get your adrenaline up. Every now and then there might be like a shot taken in between yourself, turn the brain off. It's just kind of training your body to move as fast as it possibly can and completely letting go of any sort of result. And honestly, I usually hit the ball a lot more solid when I'm doing that, which is crazy, but I think there's just a freedom in it, And you're kind of just letting, like I've been doing this for my entire life. Like my body knows what to do. It's just sort of getting those fast twitch muscles to fire faster. And, it sets your top speed that much higher so that when you are seeing ball flight and you're outside and trying to hit the grid and all that, your cruising speed then just jumps, it's been really good for me to do that. And it's a big, it's like a little stress relief too. Those sessions are great. I love them.
That's awesome.
Just turn on some angry music and therapy session.
Exactly. So what's the frequency of like how many speed sessions are you doing in a week, in a month? Are you doing kind of ramp ups and ramp downs? How are you approaching kind of the development? And also just to give the listener context, like where did you start Like what were your club speeds, ball speeds, say, 2018, 19, kind of when you did your first rounds?
Yeah.
And where are you now?
Well, 2019, I probably was like low 160s ball speed, maybe mid 160s. I think I might have hit like 108, 110, maybe club head speed. Now in practice sessions, like my fastest is 117, 178. So,
Oh, wow.
that still needs to increase for sure. I'm able to compete because I'm a good ball striker. I get a lot of balls in the grid. So just like increasing the number of balls that you get in the grid, you never know. Like you get a good bounce, you get the perfect flight, sort of being able to move it left to right when you need to, or right to left based on the wind. Just being able to do that stuff and really like optimizing your speed, getting your launch right, your spin right. I'm very efficient, so like my smash factor will be pretty high. Just kind of messing around with different equipment for the different conditions. Like in Mesquite, I was hitting a 2.5 degree head. Like I've never done that before. I've never used the really, really low lofts. I got my spin down and still being able to like launch it pretty high. So just for me, because I'm a little bit behind speed wise, I have to optimize everything. And I've done a pretty good job of that in the last year, which is why I've been able to compete with those girls that are just kind of like a next level speed wise above me.
And then what is your speed training frequency, and like how often are you doing speed sessions like that? What's
I mean, honestly, like it's not my top priority right now. You don't make money off a long drive, right? Like it is kind of
we all know this
hobby. Yeah.
Yes.
I love it, and I wish that it would get to the point where it could be my main priority, but unfortunately it just can't be. Like we all need to make a living as well. And so it kind of depends on my schedule. Right now, like a lot of it, like I said, is still trial and error for me, and especially like gym stuff. I'll try to get stronger, put on some weight, some like thicker muscle. And then like once we get into more, the consistent long drive events, I'll usually move into a little bit more like functional training, kettlebells. I've gone through phases where I've like started to do sprints and like stuff like that, just kind of figuring out what my body responds to better. It is a lot of it, like just figuring out how your body responds. If you start moving slower because you're a little bit more sore, like do you lay off the gym, like kind of figuring out how your body performs its best. And then speed training, like maybe if we're coming into an event, I'll do like maybe 3 times a week I'll do speed training, and then maybe like once a week go out and actually see ball flight and stuff. That's not so much my issue. Like I said, I just having all that time of playing golf, like the ball flight's not usually my issue. So just kind of getting my body to like let go and just move fast, because I have a lot of times where in between events I'm going back and I'm playing pro-ams and I'm on the golf course shooting content and we're doing YouTube, and you want to try to play a little bit better. So there's a lot of balance in doing what I do, and it's difficult to go back and forth a lot. So I definitely could train better and more seriously for long drive if it were my main priority, but obviously right now it just can't be.
Well, as much as like that's, I think a lot of people are like, wow, a professional athlete is struggling with that. But like, that is like the most relatable thing that I think any long driver has ever said on this podcast to everyone listening. Cause there's so many people that are trying to work or, raise families, and they're trying to play golf, particularly amateurs. Right. And, but what you're describing in the world long drive is no different. I mean, any woman who has tried to play mini tour to Epson to, even LPGA, if you're not inside the one top 100, you're still struggling for money. We see this every day with all the girls we have. So I think it's kind of cool in a way, because it's actually probably the most relatable thing that anybody's ever said at your level on the pod. So like for that, like what have you found? Because I guess this is a topic we talk about with our professionals of understanding, if you like, we're just talking about this, one of our tour guys, we were like, hey, you may be like a Monday, Tuesday workout guy. We have some people who are like, they're fine working out on Wednesdays. we have it's just going to depend on the person. I have one girl who she loves to work out Thursday or Friday, depending which day she has the morning tea time. She likes to work out in the after. Like, it's so different and variable. But to your point, you got to figure out what works for you. And so I think that is a really important kind of nugget to take away. And then the fact of when you are going where speed, you have a long drive event, so you're going to cycle more speed sessions. That makes sense. If you're going to play in a tournament, you're probably doing like maybe a little more short game, because that's actually going to matter, where you don't necessarily need much short game on the grid. But I think that's just incredibly valuable to share with the audience, and that you share. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on the road all the time, so routine is not really something that is part of my life very often anymore. So it's just kind of like, for me, it's not putting too much pressure on myself to be perfect anymore. Like, I've gone through those phases in life, especially when I was trying to play professionally. It was like this many hours of practice, and then you go to the gym and you're getting up at a certain time. And like, I don't know. I just feel like I've been living like an insane lifestyle lately. Like, I'll get home and I will unpack a suitcase, do some laundry, and repack another suitcase, and then I'm back on the road again. And the eating's not great, and you'll go a week without working out or doing like a workout that you actually feel is accomplishing something. So yeah, routine has not really been something that I've been able to like have a lot of in my life recently, and I'm okay with that. I think that like I've been doing it long enough. I mean, I started working out when, like, my boyfriend teases me all the time. Like, people say, like, oh, how often do you work out? And he's like, she never works out. Like, I do, but, I've been doing it so long that, like, I can take some time off now. And, when I'm working and I'm going on these trips and I'm, kind of all over the place, I don't put so much pressure on myself to, like, be perfect all the time. Mm-hmm. And I think that, like, there's a benefit to that, too,
100%.
Like, if you don't there's not so much pressure on, like, just everything being perfect. And if you don't reach those goals that you have in mind, like, you start to feel bad about yourself or have guilt or feel like you're not working hard enough. Like, I do what I can do, and I have to make a living, and I have to take advantage of every opportunity that I have in the industry right now, and that's sort of like my main priority. And just trying to be the best that I can be in between then when I have the time, Yeah,
100%. And I think everybody goes through, everyone has seasons, right? They're just the season of life. And I think this is something, for golfers too. I think I don't want to let you glaze over this. You said, like, you've worked out for so long that you don't need to work out 5 times a week now to maintain your outputs. And I think that's, I made a post, I don't know, a couple months ago of like, just based on all the research we've done, that like once you hit 1.75 times body weight in a deadlift, like going to 2x or more the rate of return just drops so much that you're better off doing other things. Yeah. Right? And then let's just say there were a lot of comments on that. But to your point,
you can overtrain a little bit too.
100%.
And you stop seeing results because your body's never really in recovery mode, right?
100%.
And that's kind of like, I'm 35 now, and I've been through those phases in my life where I've just, I think, like, overworked my body, and then the injuries come in, and a lot of it's like just staying healthy for me too, and knowing when my body feels its best and knowing when to give it a break. And, I think that that's really important too. And there have been phases where I feel like I'm working so hard and I'm not really like gaining anything from it, And I think that like giving your body that time to sort of rest and recover, and, letting your muscles kind of like, right, like they don't grow if they never get rest time.
They're constantly being broken. They're not repairing.
Exactly. And I think that like that is something that you kind of have to learn too, how your body responds.
100%. And I know that with all the travel, I've seen a number of posts just talking about. And we were joking before we started recording. You just said it was because you're getting old, but that your back is starting to, like, you're having some. The back would get tighter just with all the travel, and obviously lack of routine and like just everything, the craziness that you're living through is going to obviously make that more likely to happen just from the nature of what you got to go through. So What's that been like for you? Because that is a very common thing that I will, just based on statistics, 70% of people listening are dealing with currently who play the game of golf. Particularly if they travel for work, or just we're coming up on summer, so they may be traveling, routines go to they just disappear. Like, how have you been able to deal with that and kind of manage that?
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously I'm not, professionally trained in like fitness or like what you guys do with the, therapy and all of that. But for me personally, I did learn that I am a very like quad dominant person, and my posterior chain needs a lot of work. And the stronger my glutes are, the less my back hurts. So that's something that I have learned over time to kind of focus on. I almost have to like train with an imbalance because I've had this
just double up on the posterior chain.
Right?
Yep, 100%.
And then just like doing a little bit more stretching and stuff, like making sure that when I get to my hotel that I am giving it a little bit of attention, stretching, just doing some like recovery stuff. Obviously there's some things that are just out of your control, like going from one different bed to another. It's gonna take a little bit of a toll on your body. But yeah, for me personally, the more I train my glutes, the better my lower back feels, for sure.
What about, do you do any soft tissue work, like with softballs, lacrosse balls, anything along those lines?
Not really. I have a foam roller and like a Theragun.
Massive unlock. We just found a massive unlock. When we're done recording, we're going to give you a couple things. Very easy stuff.
I'm telling you, I need someone to tell me what to do. That's another thing that like I probably had a little bit more of when I was, taking golf a little bit more seriously, and like you have an issue, you get it sorted out. You go to I had a chiropractor that would always work on my wrist. I had like chronic tendonitis, and I would always go and get like my forearm released, and like he wasn't like cracking it obviously, but like doing the trigger point
work,
releases and stuff like that, and it made a huge difference. Now I'm just kind of like, oh, my back hurts, like it's annoying. Okay, move on,
But it's so easily fixed, Cass. It's so easily fixed.
So I guess I'm gonna have to go get a couple of cross balls now.
Well, so I'm curious now, because this will probably be very relatable to everyone else. Do you typically, is it like in the center of your back when it happens? Is it sometimes one-sided? Is it consistent?
No,
is it
right
just all over the place?
In the middle, it's like really low.
Deep rotators. All right. Yeah. So it's actually pretty cool. A lot of the research that we do, what we found is like when you get that, it almost feels like a vice grip. I'm assuming, kind of like super low, like it's just kind of grabbing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It doesn't feel like anything's pulled or whatever. It just tightens up.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's interesting with what I've found is, so if you think of like where you're like your sit bones, like if you think of like, I was using an analogy, you're sitting like a high stool, like a high bar stool, and like you sit there too long and kind of like your sit bones kind of get uncomfortable, so you're like shifting. So there's muscles right around those sit bones called the deep rotators. So they're responsible for externally rotating your hips. So think of if you cross your foot, your foot on your other leg, that the hip that's crossing over the top is externally rotating. So it's actually the opposite direction that we need for golf, which is internal rotation.
Yes.
So
that's I need more of.
Well, that's the other number one predictor of low back pain is lead hip. So for you, because you're righty, your left side, hip internal rotation. So because if you don't have the hip rotation on the lead leg, then particularly when you're going through 117 miles an hour repeatedly, you're basically going to run into, it's not actually a brick wall, but it's from an analogy standpoint. You're running into a brick wall repeatedly. And so that ends up putting tons of stress on the external rotators to actually like guard. So those deep hip rotators are basically constantly on defense to the lack of internal rotation. They lock down, and then you'll get that central low back stuff.
So what's the solution?
So the easiest way to do it, like, it's nice because it doesn't matter where you are. A lacrosse ball literally fits in any bag that you're going to be carrying on, or put in your golf bag even. And so basically what you do is you're sitting on the ground. You're going to basically think of that lacrosse ball kind of working in a circle around that sit bone. There's a number of different muscles down there without getting too nerdy here. But basically you're just going to you'll find the trigger, especially if you've had trigger point stuff in the past.
Yeah.
And anybody who's done rolling will know that I always say, When you find the spot that makes you think of new 4-letter words, that is the spot where the tissue is unhealthy. And then you basically are just going to like hang out. You'll feel it, particularly in those muscles. A lot of times you'll feel it twitching. Your leg may like look like it's having a seizure. And then you just kind of just breathe, and then it'll kind of relax. And the amazing thing is once you get those to relax, particularly if wherever the back pain is, if you get the hip musculature to relax, that is actually causing the discomfort. You'll stand up and it's like your back pain's gone, or that tightness is gone. Yeah. The other one that is very common in golf is people get like one-sided back pain. So like on kind of like think like your belt line, there's like those two little bones, one on either side. Mm-hmm. That's typically more what's called the gluteus medius, or like the muscle on the side of the glute. But central tends to be more deep rotators, and particularly if your hip rotation's no bueno, then
so if I'm like, because I don't have a lot of internal rotation, like what's the reason for that, or like what am I lacking? Because like you watch, like a Kyle Berkshire at Impact, right? He has like that, the way that his legs move and his pelvis moves is like, it's so Kyle, good, right?
So we rehabbed Kyle. Yeah, so we rehabbed Kyle back before his third world championship.
Okay.
So Kyle is an unfair person to use. He is joint by joint, like the most flexible human being we've ever tested, like of 15,000+ golfers.
Yeah.
Like if you have better hips than him, you will not have better shoulders. If you have better shoulders, you will not have better, he just is wildly flexible.
But then there's are you familiar with Colton Castro?
Oh yeah. Colton's been up here. Yeah, I beat him at Topgolf in lefty long drive.
So he's kind of the same way, but he is one of the least flexible people I've ever met. Like I will stretch him out and he'll be like dying before I even get him into a spot that I think is normal. But his impact position looks very similar to Kyle. Like he gets that.
So he's crazy elastic, right? So this is where you start getting into how people create their power. Mm-hmm. And if it's like force production, which is like just I'm crazy strong. If it's elastic, which think of like super skinny person who swings really fast that you're like, how do they do that? Right. Mm-hmm. And then if, the ideal from a injury or like longevity standpoint in terms of somebody who's going to be able to go fast for a long time without getting hurt is somebody like a Kyle who has crazy flexibility and has crazy strength on top, and then has like really good strength on top of it. Yeah. Right. So Colton struggles with nicks and, aches and pains because he doesn't have mobility. He's crazy strong and all the damn crabbing he's done over the years. Right. But every time he's up here, I'm always on him like, dude, you gotta get the hip better. And so he will struggle with, at some point, the back will go, or he'll have wrist or elbow. Something will compensate for that. Right. And that's one of the challenges that most long drivers, we've had most of them in here, that they have is you guys are strong, elastic, you're not going to deal with the lack of mobility until you start to get into your mid to like late 20s is when you'll start to like quote unquote not get away with it anymore. And then that's where the normal amateur golfer like in his 50s who's listening right now is like, man, I wish I was in my 30s. But it starts really like late 20s at the elite levels where we start to see guys starting to really truly lose that. So what you actually want to see is like 45 degrees of hip rotation. So here we're on camera. So those of you watching on YouTube, you'll get to see.
I feel like I'm pretty mobile. Like I am.
So we're gonna test it. All right.
But, oh gosh.
All right. So sitting here. So what you're gonna do? Just keeping your knees flat. You're just rotating the leg straight out as far as you can go. So you don't want to bend the foot backwards towards your chair.
Yeah.
You just want to go straight out to the side. Let me see if you can truly see my foot. So it's going to go...
Oh, yeah. I'm not able to see it. But...
Like 45 degrees. So that would be 0. If it was like if I cheated, got it to 0 degrees, it would be parallel to the ground. Right? So you want to get at least halfway out, which would be 45 degrees.
Okay. Yeah.
How far you get?
Not that far.
So, and
the
as a
other way, I feel like I'm like if I'm sitting like cross-legged on the ground.
Yeah, externally rotating, you're great.
Yeah, I have a ton of flexibility, but internally, I don't have.
Right. So if you want to be like a yoga instructor, you're golden. But unfortunately, to be the number one world long driver, you're kind of in trouble.
Right. So that's
right. But and this is what we see is you need minimum 45, but then as you start to ratchet up speeds, so for you, At 5'5", you're not massive, right? So you're going really top end when we talk about, I mean, you were fast to begin with, and now you've added another, what do you say, like 18 miles an hour ball speed? I mean, like, so you've really ratcheted it up. So that's where we would actually want to see north of 50 degrees, particularly being a woman as well. We would expect naturally you to be, obviously there's, depending on your hip, structure is and all that sort of stuff, there may be limitations, but minimum 45, definitely if you're swinging as fast as you are, 50 plus, right? So if we go back to Kyle, he's like 60 degrees. It's stupid.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Like crazy stupid.
Yeah.
Right?
He's almost like double jointed too, isn't he?
I mean, he's crazy. He's hyper flexible, 100%.
Yeah.
So like if he was not as strong as he was, he would be hurt all the time. So he's very much, he'll probably give me shit for this, but he's kind of honestly more like a woman when it comes to what needs to be done, because he's naturally so flexible. So we see a lot of our LPGA girls, they naturally have a lot of the mobility. He just needs to maintain that.
They're like a little bit like noodly, right?
Yeah, they don't have the strength to control it, right? So with more mobility comes more need for strength. If you have a lot of strength and you don't have a lot of mobility, then you end up running into brick walls. And that's where we run into injuries. So for you, what you're describing, that back pain, honestly, it's just a manifestation of your imbalances of how much external rotation you have relative to how little internal rotation you have. And you're trying to drive a V12 as fast as you can into that lead hip when you're lacking probably 20 to 30 degrees, right? Now that quote unquote diagnosis is like the most popular common diagnosis of every golfer listening right now.
Yeah.
So is when we have a home assessment that we give anyone listening. You guys, this will always be in the show notes. Grab it; it's free. There's 4 rotary centers, and the hip internal rotation is the number one. And 90% of golfers fail at least one of them. I've yet to meet a long driver who passes all of them. Even Kyle, when he came, because he was hurt, his shoulder sucked. He got the mobility really quickly, but but particularly for you, how far back can you get the right shoulder?
Yeah,
in standing, in golf posture.
Really.
Now can you do that stand up and in golf posture? Now do it.
Yeah, no, I cannot.
Now arm up and now rotate it back. Yeah, so you're not bad.
But I never like I come down kind of like this, right? Like I've never been able to like supinate on my downswing.
Yeah, so you don't have a ton of external rotation to work with in the back. You've got probably 10 degrees past spine angle, right? Yeah. As fast as you're going, we'd probably like to see 15-ish to 20, it's another 50%. So if you can't, you either are going, if you're going to shallow it and come in, you're going to have to side bend a lot or slide. You don't have great hip internal rotation.
It's like fire really fast, right?
Yeah.
But there's not, like they work a little bit too, like they're too level, right? I don't get that like pelvic tilt and that left glute going like up and back, like
because you don't have enough hip internal rotation.
Right? Yep. And then this arm comes down a little bit this way. It doesn't like I said, it doesn't really supinate at all. And then, but it's still underneath me.
Yeah.
So
So and this is where you see but you'll see great athletes have. I always joke, working with a great athlete is way harder than an average person, because the average person may have 1 or maybe 2 ways to cheat. Yeah. You're going to have 5.
Yeah.
So even when your hip or your shoulder isn't moving ideally, you're going to figure out a way to get it done, right? Right. And that's where I think, and obviously with long drive, you obviously have a very fast need to internally rotate into that lead side, but because you're producing so much vertical force, you're coming up off the ground, which will allow you to kind of cover it up. Because your foot's not actually planted, whereas like a normal golf swing, you'd keep that left foot planted and you'd post on it. You're actually, it looks, to the average person, like you're jumping off that left leg is kind of what it ends up looking like.
Right.
So that's where you'll end up kind of getting away. But that's why Kyle's the first long drive guy ever to get injured to the point of having to like WD the way that he did. He couldn't swing a pitching wedge without like falling to the ground in pain. To 12 weeks later, going back and winning the world championship. He's the first one to ever kind of come back and do that. And I'm a firm believer, having looked at as many long drivers as I have, because none of you guys have hip rotation, and and none of you guys have gone to actually like fix that. But if you can fix it, which is easy to do, then you can build the speed and the strength, and now you have longevity that you can on top of that.
So what's the best way to stretch that internal rotation?
So great question. So it's actually not stretching. So this is probably one of the biggest myths that a lot of people have is that, this comes from PE class. It's not our fault. This is what we were told, right? It's like, oh yeah, stretch, touch your toes, hold it for 30 seconds, you'll go further.
Yeah.
If you look at actual like contracture research of like how long do you need to hold a stretch for muscle fibers to actually lengthen, like to go from like 3 inches to 5 inches, you got to hold a stretch for a minimum of 5 minutes.
Right.
Like you're not actually lengthening the tissue, right? So the reason why you don't have a hip rotation mobility or, you insert whatever area is typically not because the muscle's not long enough. It's because your brain it's more of a nervous system restricting the area because it's afraid that you either A, don't have the strength to control it, B, you haven't been using it. So your brain is very much, hey, if you're not going to use it, like, why are we going to waste energy to try to maintain it? Let's lose it.
Yeah.
And so, or there was an injury or whatever it may be. And so you're just, your brain is going to think it's noxious stimuli. And so it's going to avoid it. So it's truly like all like, you mentioned foam roll. A softball is going to have a small enough surface area to actually get into the hip area. Particularly at 5'5", foam roller is way too broad for you. Not going to get a ton of benefit on that.
I have actually a pretty small, harder one.
Even that's way too broad. Like
Okay.
you're going to have to get in. Like think of like your sit bone, right?
Yeah.
And to go like around that.
Sure. Yeah.
You need
So
smaller,
it
right?
has the little indent for your spine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which actually feels pretty good. And
Oh,
I'll
yeah,
just
that'll feel great.
put it really low on my back, and then
Yep.
I'll just lay on it, and I'll take both hands on either side and just push it down.
Yeah.
So it stretches it, lengthens it.
Yeah, it'll feel good. It's going to relieve all the tension that's there because the hips are. You think of your back has tension because think of the bone in between your glutes, your hips, your butt, and your back, right? And think of there's a tug of war going on. Mm-hmm. So the tighter that the butt muscles get, it's going to pull on the rope. The back doesn't want to lose, so it has to pull back. Yeah. So if you can release the tension in the butt and in the hip musculature, all of a sudden the back will release. So when you do something like that, it's alleviating that stretch and kind of letting people let go of the rope, which is then why it feels better. So the way that you increase that mobility, you can do it. I mean, you're 35, you're athletic, you're a world long driver. Literally in 2 weeks, you'd have full hip mobility. You'd probably have no back pain in less than a week if you just did it 5 minutes twice a day. It doesn't take a ton.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of you get on. It's going to suck when you do it. You're going to be like, F you, Chris, or whatever 4-letter words you think of when you hit that spot.
That's my IT bands too. Oh God, they're so bad.
Yeah. Well, so the IT band this is turning into an anatomy lesson, is the basically the tendon that connects up to the TFL, which if you think of put your thumb in your hip pocket, here, that's the muscle that will be the worst for you when you roll. That's the muscle that cramps when you try to do that hip internal rotation test, right?
Yeah.
So if you can release the TFL, all of a sudden, the IT band's not nearly as bad. Now there still can be kind of where it's stuck between there and particularly in a quad dominant person, where it's stuck between there and the fascia's not colliding the way that it should. But anyway, I can nerd out on this stuff forever, but
no, that's good.
I'm clearly afterwards. We're gonna be sending you some videos of stuff to do.
My mobility is gonna be my legs are just gonna go woo after a week.
Or we'll just hope that your back doesn't hurt. I'll just take that. So, but Cass,
all right. I mean, it just Colton's always hurt too. That obviously, but we're always before events. It's we got our KT tape out on our wrist, and then we got the deep blue stick rolling it all over our backs. It's Jesus. That is it.
Well, I mean, you guys are pushing your bodies to the absolute limit. You're redlining, you're in your training. You're redlining when you're competing, and I think there's so much that the average golfer can learn, and that obviously there's still, I think, the knowledge gap in world long drive among the athletes is massive. I think if I'm going to make a prediction, and we'll play this back in 5 years, that the average, ball speeds now, for the men, 220s to 230s are winning, right? For women in the 180s, add at least 10 miles an hour to that in the next 5 years.
Oh, I'm sure.
Easy.
It's increasing
easily,
so fast.
Easily. Yeah. And the longevity of you guys doing it is going to go up massively as well too, because just the science of understanding how to keep the body healthy. Little conversations like this, you're going to go and you're going to try it, and you're going to be like, holy crap, it feels terrible. And then all of a sudden your back doesn't hurt. And then the next time Colton's hurt, maybe he'll listen to you. You don't listen to me. You'd be like, hey, Colton, you should try this. Maybe he does it, right? So it's just going to continue to iterate in the progress on the speed side. As much as I think we talk about it in regular golf right now as being like, wow, look how fast these guys are. Like, you guys, I think, are going to see an even bigger jump because that's literally all you guys do. And when you start to understand how to do it.
It's happening so fast, too. It's like any little bit of progress that I make, it's like it's just not enough, and it's not fast enough because the girls that are already faster than me are making jumps still, too. Like, no one's stalling out and, like, waiting for us to catch up. Like, it's insane.
Yeah.
And, so it's very impressive. But, I mean, a girl going 190 ball speed, like obviously people on the internet just don't understand because there'll still be, your usual comments like, oh, well, PGA Tour guys, hit it that far or whatever, or swing it that fast. But it's really, really impressive what these girls are doing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think when you normalize it to, I mean, people
just
that are making
years ago, you could compete in the 160s. That's you can't do that anymore.
No. Well, and people making those comments just don't understand physiology and the difference of training and all that sort of stuff. It's just, they're stupid. That's all. But Cass, I want to obviously be respectful of your time. I can't thank you enough for coming on. How you post a ton. It's just so fun to watch everything that you're doing. Where's the best place for people to follow you, kind of connect with you, and just keep up with your journey to 190? I love it. Let's go to 190.
Yeah. Let's get to 180 first, but hopefully that won't be too
That's just a pit stop along the way.
Yeah. Mostly on Instagram, CassMarie_B. And then I am actually, we've talked about Colton a little bit on this podcast. He and I, Bobby Ray, Avery Dovsack, and then one of our other friends, Dylan, we're starting a YouTube channel, which is going to be launching soon. And that's going to be called Don't Finish Last. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I saw some nice airplanes going on there.
What's that? Oh, like I was on a PJ.
little PJ action. Not a bad deal.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. It was my first time. Now I have to go back to being a peasant, and that kind of stinks. So
give you a taste and then kick you out again.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Cass, thank you so much for coming on. Everybody, go check out what she's doing. Go check out the new YouTube channel. I will definitely, now that I know you guys are starting that, make sure that Colton, we put on the filming of him losing to me at Topgolf. Definitely needs to go on there. But thanks so much for coming on, Cass, and everyone else, thanks so much for hanging out with us here on the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad. We'll look forward to catching you on the next episode.